Hi, my name is Kenna Loveday, and for my informative speech, I will be talking about how female athletes face adversity and inequality in the sports world. The purpose of my speech is to inform others how female athletes are overlooked, face adversity, and are not treated as equal to their male counterparts when it comes to sports. Female athletes are overlooked and not treated as equal in many ways, and this is an issue that needs to be brought up and addressed. Growing up as an athlete, you face adversity, but growing up as a female athlete, you face even more adversity. And this adversity only starts as you're growing up. It continues throughout your entire career as an athlete, even after an adult. As a female athlete myself, I grew up facing adversity. I played fast foot softball all my life and continue to play to this day. One of the things I and my teammates faced was the issue of inequality. For example, our high school would consider it more of a priority to raise money for and to put work into the boys' sports because they considered the boys' sports as more entertaining, and they also considered the male athletes as having a better chance of furthering their career in a specific sport than the female athletes at the school had. So some of the issues we faced were not being able to afford jerseys or buses to away games and even upkeep and maintenance to the field. We also weren't able to afford new equipment for safety issues. Whether you're an athlete or not, you've had a time in your life where you've worked hard for something and been overlooked or not treated as equal in the specific thing that you're working towards. So everybody can kind of relate to the frustration that female athletes feel at times. Although this doesn't seem like a big issue with everything going on in the world today, I do hope that through this speech to inform you that it still is an issue of not only inequality but of discrimination, and hopefully one that will be addressed for female athletes who work so hard in the sport that they love and are equally as good at as their male counterpart. I want to begin with just how female athletes are overlooked. Female athletes are overlooked in many ways, and for example, I will name one. Although the Title IX law was passed almost 46 years ago to prevent discrimination on the basis of sex, this is still an issue that female athletes face. An example of this can be seen how female sports are less supported than male sports, even though they play the same sport. According to Kelly Doyle in her article, Opinion, Women's Sports Are Undeservedly Overlooked at ASU, fans are buying into the misconception that women's sports are not as entertaining as their male counterparts. As a result to this, Kelly states in her article that during the 2017-2018 basketball season, the average attendance for a men's home game was 10,063, while the average attendance for a women's basketball home game was only 2,863. She continues to say how this is that baseball and softball have the same problem at ASU. She continues to say also that even though the women's sports are doing better than the men's sports, they're still receiving less support. She states in her article that the women's basketball team held their own in the conference play while the men's basketball team neglected to do this. The women's basketball team seeded in the number 7 seed in their 5th consecutive appearance in the NCAA, while the men's basketball team seeded number 11 for the first time since 2014 in their first appearance in the NCAA. Even though in this article Kelly is talking about how female athletes are overlooked at ASU, this is still an issue everywhere else as well. This is a problem for female athletes everywhere in every sport and at every level of play. The next thing I want to talk about are the challenges female athletes face. Just as female athletes face adversity and are overlooked, they also face many challenges. Two of the biggest challenges, perhaps Sanjana Reyes states in her article, challenges female athletes face in the world of sports. The first challenge is representation. Everybody knows every male athlete's biographies as if they knew the family themselves, but the same cannot be said for female athletes. Instead, female athletes are normally publicly disgraced. An example of this can be seen in Sanjana Rey's article when she names an incident where Dutee Chand, who was to be the first Indian woman in 36 years to run 100 meter in the Rio Olympics, on an anonymous tip last summer, sporting authorities tricked her into taking a test for hyperandrogenism, which is where a woman's body produces more testosterone than is allowed by the International Association of Athletics Federation. So not only was she banned from competing in the games that she was playing in, but she was questioned, her gender identity was questioned, and her professional and personal life went to shame. Instead of being known as a female athlete by her athletic ability, she was publicly disgraced for what seemed as reasons as people being intimidated by the athlete that she was. The next thing I want to talk about for the challenges they face is them being women being objectified. Female athletes are seen as objects because of their bodies and not because of their athletic ability. Sanjana Ray talks about this in her article as well, saying that women are objectified for pleasure instead of as good athletes. She states in her article, female athletes are objectified on the field as much as they are on the streets. The last thing I want to talk about is how female athletes fight for pay. Female athletes get paid a significant amount less than a male athlete. In an article by Samantha Churchill comparing the MLB to the National Pro Fast Pitch Softball League, an average MLB player for a 2017 salary made $4.47 million, while the NPF player's salary had a cap of $150,000 for the entire team. This means that each player received around $6,000 per season. She continues to say how Monica Abbott, who is, according to many sources, the best pitcher in the world, signed a 6-year, $1 million contract and is being paid $200,000 per season, which is 25 times less than an MLB player is receiving right now. Unfortunately, my speech has given only a glance of how female athletes are overlooked, face adversity, and are not treated as equal. I hope that the speech has brought attention to it and it will encourage people to help the situation be addressed. Although female athletes face adversity, I hope that things get better over the years for the young athletes coming behind me. For a lot of athletes, male and female alike, the sport they play isn't just a way to pass the time. The sport they play saves their lives in many ways. My name is Kendall Loveday, and this has been my informative speech on how female athletes face adversity and inequality in the sports world.